morning and welcome back to the lecture series. We are discussing short story and novel, and today we are going to talk about a modernist writer who played a very important role in the shaping of the modernist values in literature, James Joyce. James Joyce, who was a prominent and inventive writer in the 20th century, crafted the short story compilations such as Dubliners, which was published in 1914, and he is a composer of a number of novels such as A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, published in 1916, Ulysses, published in 1922, and Finnegan's Wake, published in 1939. His poetry collections encompass Chamber Music, published in 1907, and Poems Ponage, published in 1927. Born in a Dublin suburb, James Joyce initially attended a Jesuit school and later moved to Belvedere College with awarded tuition and University College Dublin. Following graduation, Joyce relocated to Paris and intermittently returned to Ireland after 1904. Residing in Trieste with his partner and wife Nora Barnacle and their children, Joyce experienced the disruptions caused by World War I, living in Zurich during the conflict and later moving to Paris and to the south of France before the Nazi invasion. Joyce passed away while the family was in Zurich. Joyce's novels faced initial resistance due to their innovative language, unique dialogue, modernist forms, and candid social portrayals. Ulysses underwent serialization in the United States and in England before Sylvia Beach, who was the owner of Shakespeare and Company in Paris, published the work as a complete book. The novel faced a ban in the United States between 1922 and 1933. Chamber Music, Joyce's debut publication, comprised 36 love poems and marked his entry into the literary scene. Recognized by influential figures such as Ezra Pound and T.S. Eliot, Joyce's poetry found a place in Pound's Imagist anthology in 1914. Ezra Pound wrote the following about chamber music. I quote, "The quality and distinction of the poems in the first half is due in part to their author's strict musical training. The wording is Elizabethan, the meters at times suggesting Herrick." Unquote. While Joyce gained acclaim as a lyric poet, he eventually ceased writing poetry around 1932. Despite musical adaptations of his poems by various composers, including Geoffrey Moynix Palmer, Ross Lee Finney, Samuel Barber, and Syd Barrett of Pink Floyd, Joyce is predominantly celebrated not as a lyricist or a poet, but as a novelist. So, coming to Joyce's work that we are going to discuss for today's lecture, A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, we begin with an important quotation from the text. "The race and this country and this life produced me," he said. "I shall express myself as I am." So, this race and this country and this life produced me, he said. "I shall express myself as I am." So, Joyce's A Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man serves as a precursor to modernism, addressing the swift transformations in terms of religion, social structure, and capitalism. The protagonist and the narrator, biographer, Stephen Dedalus, who is the central figure, embodies James Joyce's exploration of the question of individual introspection, individual freedom, symbolizing the idea of the modernism and modern age. Stephen Dedalus says the following, I quote, "I will not serve that in which I no longer believe, whether it call my home, my fatherland, or my church." Unquote. Daedalus, raised in a devout family, was sent to Jesuit school, uh, Wood College, and to Belvedere College, where the doctrines of the Catholic faith were instilled in him. His mother and Dean of the Studies wanted him to become a Jesuit, but Daedalus was destined for writing rather than priesthood, and so rebelling against imposed identities, and also disenchanted with Ireland that was subjugated by both British political control and Roman Catholic spiritual dominance, Daedalus ultimately seeks personal meaning through art and artistic endeavors, rejecting societal norms and expectations. Father Arnold's lecture on hell and heaven greatly affects him, but his inner self always guides him to follow his own desires. In chapter 4, his quest for self discovery reaches a turning point, a kind of climactic point, one could say, when he has an epiphany while observing a girl in midstream. He rejects religion when he sees this girl on the seashore. At her glance, there is a sparking and transformative realization resonating with his inner feeling, which wants to live independently beyond the boundaries of family, religion, or country. The revelation, this revelation leads Daedalus to recognize that art is the sole realm where he can find inner peace and satisfaction. As the novel progresses, Daedalus not only renounces Catholicism but distances himself from all religions. In a moment of reflection, he admits that I tried to love. It seems now I have failed. The father of Daedalus played a pivotal role in creating a significant rift between him and his family. Daedalus faces profound hardships early in life, such as persistent financial difficulties, which divert his focus from academic pursuits. He grapples with religious, national, and familial expectations, adding to the pressures that he experiences. So, the conflict with his family deepens, characterized by financial challenges and religious obligations, and ultimately Daedalus rejects not just Catholicism but all religious doctrines, opting for artistic fulfillment over societal expectations. This choice, this individualistic choice, is symbolized by his departure to Paris, leaving behind his own country, religion, family, and friends. So, some of the major themes in the novel are something that we need to look at. One theme to be examined is individualism. So, I quote from the book, "I will not serve that in which I no longer believe, whether it calls itself my home, my fatherland, or my church, and I will try to express myself in some mode of life or art as freely as I can and as wholly as I can, using for my defense the only arms I allow myself to use: silence, exile, and cunning." Unquote. Individualism, as defined by the Cambridge Advanced Learners Dictionary, is the belief that the freedom and thoughts of action for each person are the most crucial qualities of a society, prioritizing these over any kinds of shared efforts and responsibility. In the context of modernism, individualism serves as a central theme, giving rise to various other aspects. This focus on the character's personality, thoughts, likes, and dislikes becomes the writer's primary concern and forms the central theme of this book. Daedalus, portrayed as a modern hero, breaks free from the constraints of his immediate surrounding, or the categories that surround him since birth, be it the church, the family, the nation, in order to carve out his destiny based on his inner light, his inner calling. Overcoming the limitations imposed by his cultural and environmental surroundings, Stephen Dedalus untangles himself from societal norms. In his childhood, Daedalus is deeply immersed in his small world, struggling to formulate coherent thoughts. His confusion, that is fueled by a strict Jesuit school, uh, his dissatisfaction with his own father, as well as the financial struggles and a growing sense of alienation, all of these factors together contribute, and they lead to his mental exile. During adolescence, Daedalus experiences involvement in prostitution and he succumbs to lust. Despite various barriers, including religious considerations and the societal expectations of entering priesthood, Daedalus perseveres, right? He does not, give in to the idea of penitence and repentance before religion, and thereby becoming a religious person as a way of escaping or getting rid of his past sins. He perseveres his goals of individualism and individual vision. So, the turning point in Daedalus's journey occurs, I have already talked about it. It comes in chapter 4, where he envisions becoming an artist. His quest for self-discovery culminates in an epiphanic mode, which is triggered by a girl standing midstream. This encounter sparks a transformation in him, leading him to understand and realize that art is the only realm where he can find peace and contentment, not with family, friends, lovers, religion, or national discussions and interests. So, the following quote from the book, I quote, when the soul of a man is born in this country, there are nets flung at it to hold it back from flight. You talk to me of nationality, language, religion. I shall try to fly by those nets, unquote. This quotation underscores Joyce's commentary on Ireland's apparent independence, marked by external influences governing the political decisions and religious control from Rome. But just like Ireland is struggling with its own independence, controlled from two places, Daedalus is also struggling with his own freedom, right? The sentiment prompts Daedalus to leave for Paris. He wants to leave his nation that is struggling for its own independence, and he thereby abandons everything that he was born into and born with. So, in a discussion with Cranley, Stephen Dedalus explicitly expresses his disbelief in religion and his aversion to living in a completely oppressed and controlled Ireland. Constrained by opposing ideas, Dedalus feels limited by family and by Catholicism, with his desire to become a writer stifled by the narrow path of priesthood. So, determined to escape these constraints, he chooses exile and silence as his weapons, leaving for Paris to pursue his artistic aspirations. The concluding lines from the work, I quote, "Welcome, O life, I go to encounter for the millionth time the reality of experience and to forge in the smithy of my soul the uncreated conscience of my race," unquote. Reveal Stephen Daedelus's commitment to a life that is dedicated to art and aesthetics. The metaphorical smithy of my soul signifies his endeavor to be an artist whose individual consciousness forms the basis of his work. By invoking the old father and the old artificer, Stephen acknowledges his debt to the past while emphasizing his role as an artist, shaping the conscience of the community. So, the artist plays the role in shaping the conscience, the thoughts of the community. These lines encapsulate Stephen's mission to utilize his individuality to create a collective consciousness through his art. The second theme in this work is stream of consciousness. Now, the term stream of consciousness was coined by Henry James in Principles of Psychology, and it became an indispensable term in literary criticism, referring to a technique that aims to depict the multitude of thoughts and feelings passing through a character's mind. Modernist writers extensively utilized this technique in their novels, leading to the characterization of the novels produced during this period as stream of consciousness. In essence, this literary technique involves delving into the character's thoughts and emotions, providing insight into their innermost feelings. It serves as a means to convey how characters feel or what they think, whether through subtle hints within dialogue or through the actions that the characters take in certain situations. So, in this novel, we see that stream of consciousness is a very important theme. It is considered a stream of consciousness novel because the narrator not only tells a story but also delves into the character's states of mind. James Joyce very skillfully employs the techniques in the novel. James Joyce very skillfully employs the technique in the novel, using the character of Daedalus as a channel in order to explore the mental state of modern individuals, right? So, the stream of consciousness is present from the outset of the novel when Daedalus is a child, as one can see through the opening lines. I quote, "Once upon a time, and a very good time it was, there was a moo cow coming down along the road, and this moo cow that was coming down along the road met a nuisance little boy named Baby Taku." Unquote. So, the pressures of societal expectations gradually become burdensome for Daedalus, and his soul searching eventually leads to the artistic means of breaking free from the cage that the society has created. For Daedalus, art becomes a way to liberate his soul, fulfilling his quest for meaning not through external impositions but from within himself. That is the only arm that he wants to take up, right? Daedalus's journey to becoming an artist unfolds step by step throughout the novel, marked by acts of courage, independence and rebellion, such as rejecting priesthood and then distancing himself from his family, particularly his father. The novel delves into the complex emotions of characters like Cranley, who is disheartened by Daedalus's decision to live alone in another country, reflecting on the perceived cruelty of Daedalus's actions. Right? Cranley's thoughts and feelings is captured through stream of consciousness as he contemplates Daedalus's apparent disregard for the close friendships. So, Cranley thinks the following: he had known neither the pleasure of companionship with other, nor the vigor of rude male health, nor flail piety. Nothing stirred within his soul but a cold and cruel and loveless lust. His childhood was died or lost, and with it his soul capable of simple joys, and he was amid life like the barren shell of the moon. Unquote. So, a person that lives outside his own country, either out of choice or because he's forced to do so, Stephen Dedalus' nature of exile is basically twofold. Firstly, he was mentally and then he was physically exiled. His physical exile at the end of the novel shows that he was not really escaping from Ireland, but he was actually escaping with Ireland. Ireland had escaped from Ireland, right? Ireland wanted to escape from the oppressions it was facing at that point. His mind was totally different from the rest of his family members, and that's why he was mostly misunderstood. His family's downfall, strict rules of religion, and his country's position as a slave had led to his mental exile. The sense of separation aroused in him from the time he had started searching for the man inside him. The man inside him had refused to follow any kind of, imposed rule, right? Any kind of law and order that were made to be accepted against his desire was something that could not tie him down. They could not tie him down, right? Any kind of law and order against his desire could not tie him down. I do not fear to be alone or to be spurned for another or to leave whatever I have to leave. And I am not afraid to make a mistake, even a great mistake, a lifelong mistake, and perhaps as long as eternity too. Unquote. This is what Stephen Dedalus says. This is where Dedalus is coming from. So, the physical exile of Dedalus was another outlook on his mental state. He hated to live in a country that was, despite being independent, ruled by a borrowed language and, the ideologies imposed from Rome. It was politically governed by England, religiously governed by Rome. It seemed as though Ireland was colonized by these two major powers. So, as a way of completely disentangling himself, decoupling himself, he left for Paris. And then we see his loss of faith as another predominant theme. So, his destiny was to be elusive of social and religious orders. The wisdom of the priest appeal did not touch him to the quick. He was destined to learn his own wisdom apart from others, or to learn the wisdom of others wandering among the snares of the world. So, he wanted to understand religion from first hand experience, not from any kind of preaching or prescriptive codified method. So, his journey to seek the person inside him completes with the epiphany when he sees this girl. Her image passed into his soul forever, and no word had broken the holy silence of his ecstasy. Her eyes called him to, and his soul had leaped at the call. Her eyes called him to, and his soul had leaped at the call. Unquote. After having a look, he felt a change in him. He learned that art is the only field where he can find peace and contentment. So, this novel is symptomatic of the modern era that generated new ideas in people. Modernism provided the main idea of individualism. Modernism gave rights to every person to live according to their own disposition. And stream of consciousness remained the main technique of modern novels. This is also one of the key elements of modern novels. Modern novels propagated the idea that an individual should not consider anything if they become an obstacle in ways of their or in the way of his own pursuit, right? So, symbolically, Stephen Dedalus, mirroring the mythical figures of Daedalus and Icarus, senses an urgent need to break free from the intricacies of Dublin's labyrinth, the labyrinthine codes of behavior, codes of beliefs, codes of right act, correct act, that in the end chains and suppresses a person's becoming. And so, they limit the artistic, cultural and spiritual self of the person, which he wanted to escape. Compared to Icarus, who disregarded caution and soared too close to the sun, causing his crafted wings to be melted and his fatal descent into the sea, we see that Stephen Dedalus similarly dismisses familial and clerical warnings, symbolically drawn toward philosophical enlightenment, Stephen faces spiritual demise and ultimately he renounces his Catholic faith. So, the ultimate and most striking parallel is between Stephen and the legendary Daedalus, who is known, who is renowned as the great artificer. Like Daedalus, Stephen triumphs over the constraints of cultural entanglements, and in the novel's culmination, Stephen envisions himself soaring imaginatively, breaking free from the labyrinth of Ireland and ultimately heading towards a future that is marked by unrestricted, boundless artistic liberty and joy and ecstasy. With this, I am going to stop our lecture here today. Thank you.